Drugs. We all love 'em, sure. But in the early 1980s, First Lady Nancy Reagan declared war on them. I mean, the war on drugs had been officially declared a few administrations earlier, but the Gipper's wife took it on herself to spearhead a more active campaign to keep America from coking its collective brains out to cope with her husband's policies. Surprisingly, a simple "just say no" catchphrase wasn't going to be enough to keep illegal substances out of youthful hands. No, if they were going to get the kids hep to the jive, they needed to have a rap session in a lingo these kids found groovy, and that meant comic books. Bear in mind, this was in an era when a kid could still afford a comic book on a modest allowance. And Marv Wolfman and George Perez had the comic book world toking up on a different kind of rolling paper in those days. Their run on DC's New Teen Titans stands as one of the absolute greatest in comics, redefining what a comic could be. Tapping them to create a one-shot book illustrating an anti-drug message was a brilliant move on Washington's part. But a comic book being used as propaganda? Preposterous, right? That DC Comics and the President's anti-drug program chose to partner with the elves of the clan Keebler seems almost humorous, given that the first thing your average stoner is going to go for once the munchies hit is a full sleeve of fudge-striped cookies. Don't ask how I know that. Loyal Titans readers can be forgiven for their confusion at the team presented in this book. For one, team leader Robin has been replaced by a character called the Protector. Perhaps Dick Grayson's agent saw the writing on the wall with this book and wisely kept him out of it. And Starfire's stripperific bikini wear is replaced with a more sensible one-piece suit, covering the majority of her assets. No sense getting the kids off drugs only to send them to the adult bookstore, am I right, people? Each vignette is opened by a brief testimonial from a child featured in the story. It's here the book begins to ask a bit much of its reader. I mean, do you want to tell me how a 12-year-old kid can afford a regular pot, hash, cocaine, and Quaalude habit? Still, the introductory message from Nancy Reagan at the beginning of the book is a nice touch. If there's anyone the youth of America wanted to hear from in the 1980s, it was the star of Hellcats of the Navy. In any event, it was a book that got made. It's perhaps the darkest chapter of the Wolfman-Perez union, but it's still a good read, especially if you pop a few OxyContin in before you dive in.